You're probably wondering why this lo-fi chill music is playing. It's because I'm trying to put you in the mood of what was going on at the conference. Lots of times between segments, between speakers, there would just be this really chill music. During the actual event, there were lots of activities that really just relaxed you. So just relax and let's talk about this. Hello, you guys. Welcome back to my channel. This is your girl, Najwa. Oh my God, my energy level is through the roof right now. I am so excited to get into the BetterUp Uplift conference and my takeaways with you. Jesus. 2 days, guys. 2 days where I have been going to sleep at 4 o'clock in the morning and waking up at 11 o'clock in the morning just to be on the same timeline as Pacific Standard Time to watch this. Oh my gosh, we're gonna get into it, but first let's go through a few updates. So I've got and by the way, if you guys want to skip right through to the live stream, not the live stream, we're not gonna watch the live stream together, but I've taken some screenshots and I'll walk you through what I found as the key points. You can go, I'll put the timeline in the description, and you can just go ahead and skip past the updates if you want to go right to it. I also did you guys a favor by putting Prince Harry's portion of the segment at the front of this video, and then the rest kind of follows chronological order of the actual event. I don't put every single speaker in here. I don't cover every single speaker because there were some times where I was like eating, where I was cleaning, where I was answering emails but trying to watch it at the same time, or my husband was bothering me, or I was on the phone, or so everything's not in there because, guys, it was like 2 days literally. But the most impactful segments that I found I'm going to cover in this video. But before we get to that, why is this relaxing music playing? Why am I showing all of this beautiful imagery? Because some of the key takeaways that I took from this conference is we cannot be the best at what we do, whether it be towards work or our personal life, our families, our other connections, unless we are well mentally, unless we are in a state of feeling protected, feeling safe, feeling comforted, feeling confident in ourselves, and feeling that amount of self-love and self-confidence. So just drop all of your baggage, get really comfy. So the first thing I want to say is that I can see glimmers of the sunlight coming through my window right now. And it is not spring yet, we're still here in winter, but we are approaching closer and closer. And as we start to see those cherry blossoms and tulips and daisies start to bloom, we remember that everything has its reason, everything has a season, and life transforms itself. In my one of my videos, I can't remember which one, I give a quote from my favorite author, Ralph Waldo Emerson. Nothing in this world stays mismanaged for long. And that is just the nature of transformation. So guys, if you ever are down, you're feeling down about the amount of hate in this polarized world we live in, you're down about, how people have persecuted Harry and Meghan and others just like them who call out racism, who call out xenophobia, who call out sexism, who call out hate. Just remember that there are people also just like you. Yeah, I'm talking to you in this world who also care, who want to bring what is dark into the light, who want to bring injustices towards the light, who want to spread love. So do not worry one bit. Now, I have an update on the live streaming. I did, sorry, I have a mitt in my mouth. I did a poll, and it looks like 86.8% is for the live streaming and 13.2% is against it. And we know most likely who that 13.2% is, sadly. Just like we know they're probably watching this video, which, guys, roundabout way that I want to get to this, because there's something that happened in the US that I want to talk to you about really quickly. Because I feel like the UK and the US are related in this popping up of polarizing content. Rupert Murdoch, we know that he has a deep hand in both the US and the UK, and he's had a deep hand in sort of the demise of the public image of Harry and Meghan. And so I just wanted to talk about this. A lot of the people, the derangers, the people who are just avidly trashing Harry and Meghan, I saw a video the other day entitled F-U-C-K Meghan Markle. That was the title of the video, F-U-C-K Meghan Markle. And there were thousands of views, thousands of likes, hundreds of comments of people who had the same sentiment. So these people have been lied to. They've been lied to from this fake news, spearheaded by the hateful UK tabloid media and some of the very far right extremist US tabloid media, which both of those are spearheaded by Rupert Murdoch. And it's just disgusting to watch. And so the reason we're going to go forward with this live stream is because we need a forum to talk about it. And we need a forum to really lift up compassion, to lift up love, to lift up social justice and putting in the work that it takes to be a united society, to remove forms of fake news and just intolerance. And so that's why we're going forward. But there's always going to be no good deed doers. There will always be no good deed doers. And you know what? Like, give me 2 weeks. Give me 2 weeks and we can get the live stream up and going. I'm gonna probably do it, like I said, twice a month. So give me 2 weeks and I'll try and give you like the reminder on YouTube where you know that it's upcoming. I'll try to give that to you at least 5 to 7 days in advance. I feel like that way you'll know when it's coming. There'll be no surprise around it, and I'll be there live to talk to you guys. I'm pretty sure I'm going to end up using StreamYard, and StreamYard, I'll be able to kind of go through the content with you while I can talk to you in real time on the screen, and your chats will pop up on the screen. So that'll be a really great opportunity for us to have a live conversation. I just want to give a little bit of, what do I want to say? A little bit of a service announcement. You know that this really needs to be a space of respect and tolerance for both Sussex Squad, I'm talking to you squaddies too, behave, and the derangers, because you know what, this is a subject that is so polarizing, and people can feel really, really passionate about it, and it can get a little bit out of hand. So really, we really have to take the time to be cognizant of one another. Now, I watch like the Sussex Squad channels that are really going hard. I watch Sussex Squad Family TV. I watch Royal Sussex. What is it? I think her name is Lauren Brown. Bronte Squaddies, I think her name is. Some of them are a little bit more tame than others, but for example, you know, like Tisa Tells, there are some of the channels which I love as much as you guys, but they will trash Kate, they'll trash Camilla, you know, and I'm gonna ask you guys to do as much refraining from that as possible, because that makes us, I'm not gonna say you, that because that includes all of us. I have my moments too where I'm just so filled with despair at the state of the world that we live in and how people can be so swayed by fake news and hate and inciting of this hate to trash people like this. And it makes me angry sometimes too. But I'm going to ask you guys, like Martin Luther King, to stay from that stance of peace, because that's what they want to do. They want to incite hate, and we can refuse to do that. So I'm going to ask that my live streams, you know, this is not for any other Sussex Squad channel, you know, and I will continue to watch all the Sussex Squad content. And yeah, like, try your very, very best to be respectful, come from a place of real statistics come from a place of compassion, and no disrespect will be tolerated there. Like, if I see any disrespect, I'm gonna kick you out. It doesn't matter if you're Sussex Squad or Duranger. You know, try your very, very best to be respectful. Okay, so now that is out of the way, I also dropped a video recently where I talked about the titles. Now, the titles, I feel like as long as Prince Harry and Meghan carry those titles while they're not actively really performing their royal duties in the UK, just talking, you know, as someone who's lived in the UK, talking from the perspective of tax-paying British citizens, ones who have been unfortunately swayed by this fake news out there, they're gonna see, as long as they retain those royal titles and they feel like they're monetizing those titles while not serving the crown per se, I feel like the hate towards them is gonna continue on this massive sort of circus scale, you know. And I feel like if they relinquish those titles, which I don't think it's right. Like, let me clarify that. I don't think it's right. Like, it is the birthright of Harry, Lilibet, Diana, and Archie to have those titles, and it's also a right of Meghan to have that title, being married into the royal family. I am 100% with you guys, and two wrongs don't make a right. It's not right. You know, they should have those titles. But, oh, and I see the sunlight peeking into my window even more, guys. There's that transformation. But the thing is that they can be the bigger people and show, hey, we don't even need these titles. We can still do the work that we're doing, because it was never about the titles that made Harry and Meghan so special to us. It never, ever was. You know, all of these hateful rhetoric, you know, rhetoric of salacious news. They want to say that Prince Harry and Meghan aren't popular, but they're talking about them all the time. So how can they not be popular? It doesn't add up. They are popular. And from the beginning, it has not been because of their titles that we love them, guys. It's been because of their warmth, their compassion, their devotion to people, their selflessness. We talked about in the last video, their selflessness. So if they relinquish those titles, they really are not losing anything, and they are really just snipping that big old weight of baggage that's behind them. I know there's an argument with Diana when they took her HRH title away, that she got even worse treatment, but I feel like Harry and Meghan, they have so overcome that. Now, whether they keep their titles or not, they're going to be embraced in love. But this live stream is a place, I am a person who believes that when you dig your heels in and you are unable to ever change your mentality towards something, you're never able to change, you know, you've dug your heels in and you won't be swayed. That right there is what holds progress behind. So I'm not the type of person who sticks with an opinion or thought if I've been proven wrong. So in the live stream, if you guys want to prove me wrong, convince me that I'm not right about these titles. And if I see it, I have no problem saying, okay, I can see your point. And that right there is true democracy. That right there is true sort of goals and objectives towards being a tolerant person. So and that is right now why the UK, the nasty UK tabloid media and the powers that be, that's why they're in the position that they're in, because they seem very, very unswayable, unmovable in a tide of change, in a tide of progression, and that is not what we want. So if you guys want to convince me, go ahead and convince me. I love that. Now I want to talk about, there is a $1.6 billion lawsuit in the U.S. Against Donald Trump and from Dominion, from the for you guys who don't know. So basically, back in the day, when you used to cast your vote for a presidential election, you used to do it on a ballot. You used to do it on a paper ballot. And in some places you still do. But in a lot of places now, you have the electronic system. And Dominion is the company who provided the technology for the digital casting of ballots in the 2020 election. So Donald Trump essentially said, hey, this was rigged. And then he, Fox Fox News showed this, the clip of Donald Trump calling people to riot the Capitol and to storm the Capitol and all that stuff. And we know how that turned out. So Fox News intentionally incited hate, intentionally, convinced people that the casting was wrong, the ballots was wrong, were skewed. And Dominion's like, hey, no, they were not. Like, he lost fair and square. And Fox News was going so behind this, they were so spearheading it. And now some communications, some text messages and emails have come out from Tucker Carlson, which, I want to like Tucker Carlson, I want to like Piers Morgan, but they just show over and over again that they're so hypocritical. And these text messages have come out that have shown where Tucker Carlson is basically saying, I can't take any more of Donald Trump, he's the worst, I hate him with a raging passion, I try and avoid covering him as much as I can. We know that all of this stuff is silly, but on air, Tucker Carlson is pro-Trump. He's totally saying that the 2020 election was rigged, and we know what the implications of that was. We know that white supremacists stormed the Capitol in the United States, that it was a full-blown insurrection. It has since incited continual hate of extremist groups in the United States. What Trump did and Fox's participation in that incited so much hate, and I see so many parallels between the 2021 storming of the Capitol and basically these extremists who were coming out in the UK against Harry and Meghan, who look extremely, extremely prejudiced. And so that right there shows you that there is a new coming. And Rupert Murdoch, Tucker Carlson, and Fox News, some developments are all coming to light to show that this was rigged, that this was fake news, that this was inciting hate, and that it was morally corrupt. And I really hope that Dominion wins this lawsuit. That is that transformation that I was talking about, guys. That is that natural retribution that happens. Nothing goes mismanaged for long. And so I feel the exact same thing is going to happen with the UK. Things in the dark will come to light. And thank goodness that Prince Harry and Meghan are brave and courageous enough to come out and speak towards that. That's the US. The US and the UK, a lot of people want to say that the UK and the US are so different, but the US was born out of the UK, so a lot of those mentalities, sadly enough, exist in the US too. But wherever you are in the world, whatever continent you're on, North America, Europe, Africa, the Middle East, Asia, there are still many, many people who want to do the right thing. Many of you watching this are among those. And so we just have to continue that good fight, to fight for tolerance, to fight for unity, to fight for compassion. And that's wonderful. So the other thing I want to talk about before we get into this is, this is, a lot of people couldn't understand why BetterUp, the organization that Prince Harry is doing this work for, how anybody would pay $1,000 to come to this conference. While the virtual event was free, and I really wish I could have attended it in person, they really couldn't wrap their head around why people would pay that much. And mental health in the workplace is so important, and we see that from the mental health crisis that Harry and Meghan face while being a part of the royal family. They're constantly pulling flags saying something is not right, and even with trigger warning, for those of you who are watching, this is a trigger warning for Meghan having thoughts of wanting to unalive herself, for Meghan having thoughts of wanting to unalive herself, her suffering a miscarriage, her suffering deep depression because of what she experienced in her workplace, quote unquote workplace, we'll call it a workplace role, just points to bad management is really, really not the place. It is not the place. And in San Francisco, there's a huge startup culture, and I worked for a very big ad agency in San Francisco. I've worked for many big ad agencies, and bad managers, just think about this right here talking to you, being in a corporate structure. I learned a long time ago that the corporate structure just was not for me, not as long as there were so many bad managers and structures in place. And so my husband and I, we went our own way, and we went the entrepreneur route. We're both entrepreneurs in our own respect, and we also have our own company. And so for me, there was sort of validation that every single experience that I've experienced in the workplace with tokenism, in other videos I talk about oftentimes being the only Black creative in creative departments of 20, 30 people. I've talked about being a woman and having, male managers who were of a certain, skin tone, often being what seems like intimidated by my intelligence, by my creativity. We all know what bad managers look like. We know what systemic prejudice looks like. And so this needs to be changed. It needs to be transformed. And a lot of the people that attended this were of the HR segment. So I don't imagine a lot of people who were just creatives like me, just, creative, writers, copywriters, or photographers or art directors like myself. I don't imagine that they were there, but perhaps the executive creative directors or the VPs of creative were there, but it was mostly HR. And HR, guys, is one of the most toxic structures. One of the most toxic structures in the corporate environment, and it really, really needs to be transformed, and people are learning that. When I was with one of the biggest ad agencies in the world, working on renowned companies in San Francisco, I told you guys that we had a wellness room where you could go and practice yoga. We had lots of conferences like these, but on a smaller scale, like an internal scale, where we would do coaching. I've been through so many coaching events. As a creative, over the years of soft skills, I've gone through so many, of those like foam bat type situations where we're like, doing all these funny exercises, but it's such a good place. And it all comes from the place of you need to make your creatives and your staff and your employees feel like they have a place of belonging. And security, and companies are realizing that more and more. So I think the age of the bad manager is slowly coming to light, and I'm happy that Prince Harry is a part of that. I had talked to you guys about this one bad manager. I was with a nonprofit organization. And I feel like in the nonprofit world, there is so much like toxicity, and it's so ironic because these are companies that are working for the common good, but within their leadership structure, there's a bunch of just nastiness. And I had a great with this nonprofit that I was working for between 2020 and 2022. There at my last 6 months of this company, I had a great executive director who was teased and mocked and micromanaged to the point of her like almost having a mental breakdown and leaving. And this was a great leader. And she was replaced by someone who clearly kind of had that snake in the grass vibes. And she had basically pushed that old executive director out, my entire team out. And in the end, I ended up leaving too, because my 10 years of experience, my 10 years of having trainings like this one, where we want to know what our strengths are, and good leaders will cultivate those strengths instead of knocking them down. This bad manager came in. She had no experience as an executive director of a nonprofit, no experience really on a higher scale of marketing and things like that, of advertising, of creative advertising. And when I would try to basically give the experience, give the insight that I had, I was basically faced with that feeling that really toxic managers give off when they're insecure in their own sense of experience, their sense of really the how do I want to say it, of the sort of qualification for their own job. Sometimes they really don't have the qualification. This woman, Lord have mercy, like, she came from a background of ministries. She worked with a lot of small churches and things like that. Nothing that I ever seen working on large scale advertising campaigns for large scale strategy. And I had 10 years of experience in this. So it was like basically watching someone who had done a couple of small group events for churches and stuff. And here I am with 10 years of experience with startups, with big Fortune 500 companies, with advocacy organizations, with nonprofit organizations. All that experience was basically just downplayed and diminished and attempted to be overshadowed by this bad manager because of her own insecurities. This woman, Lord have mercy, she has an 11-page CV. Like, very recently I went on her website. She has an 11-page resume, and like, you would know it's just nobody, even someone who has 30 years, 40 years of experience, has an 11-page resume. Like, it just, her resume mentions almost to the absurdity of like, oh yeah, at this organization I would go and take a poop at 2 p.m. So after I left, that was really a point of just total contention for me. And looking at that, it was hilarious, but at the same time very sad. Just looking at the lack of qualification of this woman and her insecurity. If you look on YouTube, there's so many more searches about bad bosses, bad manager, toxic manager. And that just really, really shows that exists. So, yeah, this conference pointed out so much more than just, the need for good mental health within an organization, but also the need for good mental health, period, across the board. So, yeah, let's get into this really quick. One more thing on the live stream I want to update you guys on. So with the live stream, do you remember, maybe you remember a time where your mom or your dad was driving you and your siblings back from an amusement park, maybe it was Six Flags or Disney World or whatever. I know I certainly can. Or maybe it was the pool, and you know how kids get after a long day of a bunch of fun and sun. And then towards the end of the day, they get kind of restless and they start hitting and slapping each other in the back of the car and, just really acting out. If you remember your parents sort of pulling that car over to the side, I remember growing up and we had this terrible station wagon, terrible, but also great, or a minivan, my mom sort of pulling it over and being like, we are not moving 1 inch until you guys act right. Now, that live stream, just think of me as that mom in that minivan. If I see any disrespect, any sort of acting out from anyone, squaddies, derangers, we pull in the car over. So, guys, we have to try our very, very best to be tolerant. I think that's pretty much all the updates that I have. That was a lot. So with that being said, let's get into this conference and talk about it. So Prince Harry's segment was wonderful. Now let me give a little bit, because since I'm putting Prince Harry's segment at the front, it's the opposite of what actually happened during the conference. He, of course, we know, came at the very end, because of course they saved the best for last. And before him, there were lots of speakers and activities, all based around mental health in the workplace. A lot of it was promoting BetterUp's their platform, but also a lot of it was just common practices that different businesses, HR, anybody from the highest executive level all the way down to, sales managers or employees themselves, these things that are short-term and long-term that they basically can implement in their everyday working schedule to keep morale up, to motivate people, to have fulfillment in the workplace. Because now more than ever, And we know that from Prince Harry and Meghan's story with the issues that they had while they were in the royal family, that, really being fulfilled, really feeling like you're heard in the workplace is so, so important. So that was basically the premise of most of this. Now, Alexei, how they say it in the US, I think that his name is definitely French. So I think in French we would say Alexei Robichaud, but he just says, "Oh, Alexei Robichaud," and that's Alexei Robichaud. That's just so American. But he is the co-founder and CEO of BetterUp. He was the one who brought us into the event, and he is also the one who kind of let us out. And he's got a long and lasting friendship with Prince Harry himself. So he was the one to actually interview Prince Harry. So when you went on the BetterUp website, it was a lot of, I guess they built up momentum. They built up mystery around Prince Harry's interview because every other speaker, which drove me crazy. I mean, again, 2 days where I was literally staying up until 4 o'clock in the morning, just so that I could see this. And all of the other speakers, they told you exactly what they were going to talk about. They told you, what was going to be the premise of the discussion around mental health. But for Prince Harry, the website literally just read, I'm going to read this for you. A conversation with Prince Harry and Alexei Robichaud, Wednesday, March 8th, 5 p.m. PT, keynote. And that's it. So, of course, that just drives you crazy. But anyway, they saved it to the very last to just give you a little bit of context. And they actually, I'm going to get into what the sort of lead up to Prince Harry's entrance was at the end. So you'll see that at the very end because like I said, I'm going to the opposite chronology here just so that you guys we can get into Prince Harry first. But basically the way that they hyped everybody up before Prince Harry entered on the stage was there was this wonderful performance from this group called oh my Lord, what were they called? This just goes to show you that I have not been sleeping and I've been up for days. I think it was called Freestyle Plus. Yes, that's what it was. So Freestyle Plus was 4 people, and the lead MC was this woman. She was so good. Oh my God. So she was a beatboxer, those people that can do the with their mouths or whatever. And she was, oh my God, she was amazing. So she basically played as a hype woman. She did 2 segments in here. The first one she did alone with one of the speakers we'll speak about later in the video. But before Prince Harry's entrance, it was her whole group. It was the whole troupe. So it was 4 people. There was 5 people. There was someone on a piano, and then all 4 of them did sort of, 3 of them did sort of like these freestyling, almost like rap, R&B, singing type thing. It really integrated music. There was a lot of that through the show of integrating music with this. And we all know that music can be transformative. And so it was so great. And basically it was 3 people on the stage, and they, oh my God, it was wonderful. They basically were an improv group that integrated music into what they did. There was someone on a piano, there was a guy beatboxing through the whole thing, and then there were these 3 people who were sort of doing almost an improv segment wrapped up with music and everything. It got the crowd really, really excited and hyped. So that's basically what happened before Prince Harry came on the stage. And so finally, when the freestyle group went off, which, it was really entertaining, but at the same time, I feel like everybody was like, oh my God, bring Prince Harry out already. So after the freestyle group went off, they introduced Alexei Robichaud again, and he came, sat down on the 2 chairs, and they introduced Prince Harry out. Now, when he walked out, Prince Harry's energy reminds me, not to sound like, I'm not trying to make this about me, but he reminds me so much of my husband because he's got, maybe it's a European thing, but there's this just like silent, almost just chill nature, really, really dry humor, sarcasm. He just, when he walks out, when he talks, when he does his interviews, he's just got this humility and this down to earthness and this chillness that's just so beautiful. And I feel like that comes from him living his life of just being the spare, of just being just, sort of in the background. And so, he's got that quiet sincerity about him that's just wonderful. And so they sat down, and the first part of the show included, making introductions. Alexei basically asked Harry, about his background, and a big thing around what Harry talked about. They looked at some cards where people in the audience asked Prince Harry different questions, asked Alexei different questions, and they answered that together. I don't remember this question specifically, but I will tell you sort of where the conversation really headed. Now, a lot of the segments that happened before, like I said, bad managers suck. And so a lot of the segments leading up to Prince Harry talked about the beauty of coaching, talked about the beauty of really, really good coaching. And so Prince Harry, Alexei, one of the questions that he asked is like, what has been your experience with coaching in the past, and how has it helped you get to where you are today? And Prince Harry talked about his time in the military, his 10 years in the military. And we all know that that's been highly criticized by the hateful tabloid media. So much stuff out of his memoir, Spare, about his time in the military was taken out of context. And he gave some great context here. He basically talked about how that time in the military was so transformative to him, giving him a level of discipline, giving him a level of selflessness to let him know that everything was not about him. He also talked about, it's the military, so it's definitely not HR coaches. But he would talk about how the coaches would basically, yell at him and get him to take himself out of this, get himself to be as strong and resilient as possible, and how that really gave him a lot of discipline, which he carried over into other things. And we can see, even though it's not, he doesn't say this directly, we can see that that time that he had in the military probably deeply, deeply prepared him mentally for the storm ahead that would come later in his life with, the scandal that happened with the royal family, and him basically, being pushed aside. So that was great. They also went through the cards, and there is this one point, this is where he's so, oh gosh, he's so down to earth and so humble. So, it just goes to show you that no matter where you are in your station of life, you can still kind of crack jokes and stuff. But there's this one point, if you see this picture of him standing up, where Alexei is like, "You've done great, Harry. Like, you've been such an addition to this event, and so awesome. Thank you so much." And Harry's like, "Oh, okay, so we're done. I can go." So he gets up, he stands up like he's gonna leave, but of course he doesn't leave. But that just shows you, really how you're dealing with a real person here. He is the people's prince. So what else does he talk about? He really talks about his wife. He does not fail to mention how much of an impact that Meghan has been in his life. He talks about how his wife and their coming together in the face of adversities really was a guiding factor for his mental health. He talks about how being a parent, becoming a father, being a dad has really been a guiding light for him. He talks about basically how the struggles that he has faced in these past years, which he never really goes directly into the struggles that happen with the royal family, and we all know why that is. He doesn't want to rock the boat or whatever, but he basically explains how having this sort of open environment of discussion, to be able to talk about it, to be able to be your authentic self, especially with such an amazing life partner as Meghan Markle, how that really has been able to help him overcome adversity. Something that I found really, really interesting is that There were just times where you would see the audience, because it was live stream, so you would see how many people were looking at this live stream. There'd be a little number. So if it was 862, if it was 1.1 thousand, 1.3 thousand, whatever. And I just watched, with some of the more interesting segments, like with Issa Rae, with Prince Harry, that's when the numbers would go all the way up to 1.1 thousand, 1.2 thousand, 1.3 thousand. And then some of the ones that were not necessarily flops, but they maybe weren't as high energy, as engaging as, the headliners, the big ones. Those would teeter down to 500 sometimes 600. And I had just watched the numbers go from like sometimes 200, sometimes 500, 600. And then when Prince Harry got on, it was like 1.4 thousand, so many people were excited about this. I would not be surprised. Again, the light is peeking through my window, guys. It's talking about that transformation. I really wouldn't be surprised if some derangers actually even went through the trouble of signing up with their email address, their phone number, their first name, their last name, and everything to attend this live stream just to see Prince Harry's portion to go and criticize it later. I really, really would not be surprised by that. And the tabloids probably eat that up too. They might have the Daily Fail probably even signed up to get in there, somebody from there. We'll probably see those nasty articles pop up later. But the fact of the matter is that everybody was really, really inspired by what Prince Harry had to say. He basically, if there was one takeaway from what he said, it's that mental health matters, and that, you can't just lock it in a box. You can't just ignore it. And I feel like right now, the very, very far right, the hateful rhetoric of the tabloid media is what it wants to do right now. It wants to ignore that call of action to do the right thing, to be compassionate, to show all sides of the story, to be as impartial as possible, to be aware of people's different inherent struggles when they put out these so-called journalistic publications. And so it was just wonderful. It was just wonderful. He really inspired a lot of people. I would say another thing that I found interesting is that he brings a level of familiarity, and I don't really know what that energy is. Maybe it's an energy of like a brother, a big brother, or of a friend, of a coach, of a parent. He just brings that energy, and people clearly felt that, they really felt that love. They felt the love in the night. And that's basically the most of what I could say about that. He's such a belle. He's such a belle. And guys, I mean, this titles thing, that he was also introduced as Prince Harry. And I feel like, and I heard that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, that they celebrated Lilibet's birthday and called her by her rightful title of princess. And of course, the far right has got that. Their trolls, or their cronies, have gotten that, and they have, really just bastardized that and turned it into something that it's not. And like I said, I agree with you that those are their birthrights. Those are those titles that they are entitled to. But I really just don't see in the near future that the UK is gonna do the right thing. But as I said, nature and just the word that the world works, eventually the dark comes into the light. We see with this thing happening with Fox News, Trump versus Dominion, and Rupert Murdoch, coming under the microscope here during this trial in the US. You see that what is in the dark eventually comes to the light. And so maybe there is some hope just yet. But yeah, it was wonderful, guys. It was wonderful. So let's move on and talk about some of the other things that happened. The show itself began with an employee from BetterUp coming out. His name was Chad Thomas, and he essentially was the person who introduced the show, introduced the event, and it was a nice kickoff. He really, he had that hype man sort of energy about him. He was really energizing people, getting people excited about what was going to start, and it was great. There was Alexei Robichaud. And like I said, Alexei, or Robichaud, if you want to pronounce it in the American way, he basically started off the conference, and his opening keynote was on the human side of transformation. Of course, it is an organization, a cause-based organization, that it also has a bottom line. So of course, a lot of this was about promoting the platform, which it actually sounded great. Like during Prince Harry's segment, he even talked about how at Archewell they use the BetterUp platform. And even for me, looking at it as someone who has been in the startup world, it looks like something really, really interesting. I mean, a lot of top name companies use it. It is how do I want to say, it's integrated with Salesforce, which Salesforce, for those of you who don't know, it is CRM, cloud data based tool, and lots of marketers use it. And so it actually really, really looks good. You can have coaching both in person and coaching through your application. And these are coaches that are there at whatever, instance during your professional space, and even sometimes outside of the professional space of which you need them. Shows you lots of metrics, and there's also activities where your company as a whole can participate and all of that stuff. So that was really, really nice. And then basically they went into sort of the logistics of the app. There's this guy, Amir Gwausi. He's the group product manager of BetterUp. So like I said, a lot of this was promoting the platform. There was some, how do you want to say, testimonials from Blue Mendoza. She was a BetterUp member. And she basically talked about how it really helped her in her life. There was also Keith Razi there, and Rhonda Morris, who is the VP and CHRO, or Chief HR Officer from Chevron there, a woman of color, totally amazing, and there's even this moment where Alexei Robichaud is talking to Prince Harry, and he's saying, like, I think Prince Harry asked him the question of what, and these were questions from the audience again. Someone asked, like, what is the biggest accomplishment that you would say that you feel like has been with BetterUp from the beginning? And he goes, well, from the beginning, my co-founder and we had a precedence to really have either our company be 50% women or more. And he's like, I'm proud to say today that our company is 60% women. And so that was great. But Rhonda Morris, she also talked about, like, basically this idea of being with your team in the trenches. And again, I'm sort of paraphrasing and just dialing down the point for you. But basically, her leadership style was really being there in the trenches. And if you've ever seen that meme, of a good leader versus a great leader, the great leader is the one who's kind of commanding all the little worker peoples to do whatever the task is. And that's a good leader. And a great leader is the person, the leader who goes down into the trenches with the employees to sort of get them to where they need to go. And so that's basically where Rhonda was coming from. It was really, really great. Then there was this guy, you know what? I don't remember this guy's name. Oh no, what was his name? So he did this Take Five thing. Um, yeah. Okay. I think this was Jeffrey Hull. Yes. I think this was Jeffrey Hull. I want to say. Um, or was it Ready, Set, Flow? Yes. No, no, no. So this was Ready, Set, Flow, I believe. Jeffrey Hull already set flow. I'm sorry, I don't remember this guy's name, but he basically did this activity with the freestyle group that I told you about earlier. And it was awesome. They basically just made all of these noises all together as a group. He's like, make yourself little like a mouse and go, wee, wee, and then make yourself really big like a lion and go, ah! And, he went through 5 basically activations or activities where they weren't really making any noises. There's this one part of the segment where the freestyle hype woman came out, and she's like, she's just doing the boom, 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 or whatever. And he's like, you know what? The musicians I used to listen to back in the day, like hip hop or like a Tribe Called Quest or, NWA or whatever that was. And he'd be like, if you take the words out of it, it just sounds like, and I told you, like, music was a big part of this. And so basically, he called on the audience to basically do the same thing with the person sitting next to them, to find a partner and to just start freestyling, but without words, just with sounds. And you just saw how this really broke any tension that might have been in a room, any anxiety. And that right there is what this is all about. It was like really activating this area of mental health that is connected with our physical bodies, our physical well-being, with our comfort levels. Oh God, guys, it just was amazing. And you see, he talked about those agreements, surprise yourself, make everyone look and feel great, listen with curiosity, follow the joy, take care of yourself. I've been in so many companies where the HR is just horrid. It's just horrid. And so I really love that there was that activation. It just was really, really cool. So I thought that the thing with Adam Grant and Susan Bird was pretty good. The one that I really, really liked, Dr. Myron Rolle. So this guy, he is a neurosurgeon, and he also played in the NFL. And he was talking with Dr. Damian Vaughn, and he works with BetterUp, and he also has insight into the NFL. And, he was talking about, how Dr. Myron, just if you're thinking, oh, don't let this guy intimidate you. He's a neuroscientist. He's a bit in the NFL. He's like, if he doesn't encourage you to be like, man, I got to get to work already. Like, I don't know what does, but really, really great accomplishments. And also knowing of his background, he's a Bahamian man. He was born in the Bahamas, but his parents moved to New Jersey when he was young. And so integrating into a whole new kind of culture and society. He talked about how, the Bahamas was a part of the Commonwealth, so he also lived in Britain for a while, while he went to Oxford. And he knew that he had a choice of either to enter into neuroscience or to enter into, the NFL. He could either take it head on by behind the scenes, or he could go in the front of the scenes. And he knew that his route was leading towards the neuroscience aspect of it because he saw that he could help more people in that way for him and his particular self. And so, it just talked about how small improvements lead to big outcomes. And I found that really, really inspiring. Then this was the best part of the show. Aside from Prince Harry, I feel like this was the best part of the show, was the panel between Elise, who she is a host of TED Talks Daily, and Issa Rae, who, if you guys don't know Issa Rae, she is a writer, producer, actor, and she is the one who created the HBO/YouTube series Insecure. And she's the one who kind of coined the phrase awkward black woman. And, she's really been advocating for black rights and representation, diversity within the media and stuff. So she was awesome. There was also Robin Arzón. I hadn't heard of her before, but she is a head instructor at Peloton. I don't know if that's how you pronounce that. She's a really big fitness influencer, and she's a New York Times bestselling author. She was awesome as well. And you could tell these were 3 powerhouse women, and they were just basically talking about what it's like to be a woman in this industry and industries across the board, really, sometimes where women are the afterthought, and what Alexi said was so true. Companies are really making that effort to make women more prevalent and more pronounced and forward and center within the lines of ranks within businesses, and that is so important. And then both of these, well, actually, all three of these women being women of color, they also speak of that. You know, you've got a black woman, a Hispanic woman, and an Asian woman. And so that there's also that dynamic of them talking about sometimes being the only person of color in the room, or maybe the only woman in the room. And it was just so powerful. So, Issa Rae, she really talked about basically how when she was starting out her career, she really wanted to see more black love stories, just very straight and simple, black love stories, which I'm all for that, like I married a white person, and so I'm in an interracial marriage, but my mom and my dad are a black love story. My grandma and my granddad are a black love story. All through my family, there's black love stories. My friends, there are black love stories, and she's right. She's right. Like on TV, many times it seems like sometimes it just is very gimmicky, the black love stories, or it's not really representative of what a subculture looks like. Or, oftentimes maybe it is the case where they want to push forward a narrative of interracial couples and show the black couples as dysfunctional or weird, weird. Sometimes it's just like, it seems like TV can't just show a happy black couple. And that's true. It's like we came out of that day and age of sort of the Cosby Show, and that was sort of this representation. And she doesn't talk about this. This is me just, kind of riffing off of what she was talking about just having a normal show of a normal black couple. You see back during the Cosby age that there was just basic representation of what a functional black love looks like. And I feel like as we've gone more progressive and we've gotten deeper into society, sometimes you don't see that. On Issa Rae, I do have to make the comment of I don't always love all black cast, all white cast, all Asian cast, but sometimes I see how that is appropriate for subculture, or for example for a geographical demographic. Like for me, I feel like shows across the board, any show, any TV show, any movie, whatever, should be representative of the community or the culture that it's talking about. So if the show is just based in New York City, or not in the Bronx or the Brooklyn or a high African American community, if it's just based across the board in New York City, I feel like you should see everybody in there. You should see people of all races and all cultures, because that's what New York City is like. But for example, if a show is out of Lagos, or if a show is out of, East Atlanta in some of the more African American prominent communities, okay, sure, of course it should be mostly black because that represents the cast. But I do really like how Issa Rae puts this question forward, even though at times I feel like she comes off as she says she's self-proclaimed a little bit of an introvert. Sometimes she comes off maybe as a little bit I'm not going to say aggressive, because I really do not want to promote that angry black woman trope, but she does come off sometimes as a little bit detached. So it might be a little bit of a personality trait to sort of get used to. But these are the questions that really need to be brought forward, because people want to, keep on and harping on about this angry black woman trope, but it couldn't be further from the truth. I really liked Robin for what she spoke about, because she actually spoke about being the victim of abuse. She gave a trigger warning and let people know that when she was in a bar in New York, there was actually a shooter who came in and just started shooting up. And so she is a survivor of an attack of that sort. She talks about basically how that had an effect on her, and actually how it was a positive in the end. It brought her into her own rights as a woman, as a Latina. She talked about basically how in the beginning of her career, she would always wear khaki suits, and she's like, there's nothing against khaki suits or whatever, but it was later in my career that I found out, I don't have to fit a certain mold or try to make myself fit some certain mold just to please others. I can be myself, and you can see that with her shimmery suit and her her cute little braid and everything. She looked great, you know. So I really like that idea, because I've been in that too. I've been in that instance where you're dressing a certain way just because you feel like you're trying to meet someone at halfway at some sort of stereotype that they're placing on you as a woman of color. And sometimes you have to remember, hey, just let your freak flag fly loud and proud. You know, just go ahead and be your authentic self. I feel like we can see parallels of that with Meghan Markle. You know, remember where she mentions that when she was in the royal family, she would wear all these muted tones and things like that. And so the moderator, Elise Hu, she was really there more as sort of just what I said, a moderator. She basically posed questions towards Issa and Robin, and so she didn't talk as much as those two women, but she also did mention about, you know, growing up in a mostly white community, being you know, a Asian person, or being in the professional world and being sort of that Asian representation and being the other, you know, the othering that happens in society. And so it was just great. It was really great. Then there was this guy, Scott Kaufman. So he was really, really cool. He basically told the story of how he, up until he was in ninth grade, you know, much during his time in, oh my God, now it's really, really bright in the room. The sun is really coming out, guys. That transformation is happening. So Scott Barry Kaufman talked about how when he was in primary school and secondary school, he was actually placed into special education. This story really, really caught me, because it was just like, wow. He talked about how he was in special education, special ed, you know, and how he had always felt like he really didn't belong there, but he just kind of was socially awkward. He was introverted. He was a nerdy kid, and he basically didn't have sort of the social skills or even the confidence, you know, the words to just say, I feel like I don't belong here, you know. And then finally, when he reached the ninth grade, he had, thank goodness, a teacher who just said, like, hey, I feel like you don't belong here. Like, what are you doing in special ed? You're not supposed to be here. And so he was taken out of special education, and he led this track, you know, towards what he does now, which is, you know, a big part of being someone who's a motivator, but also from an academic standpoint. You know, he's a cognitive science, he's a professor, but I feel like there's a part of what he does that dips into coaching. And I found what he talked about so inspiring. And I feel like we see that within not just the school system with children, but even with adult frameworks within our professional spaces, where people will just lock you into a box, whether it be, you know, special education, whether it be the angry black woman trope, whether it be the Asian American trope, but whatever it is, silly woman, you know, ginger man, who knows? But society has this need to just sort of lock people into boxes. And it's really up to us sometimes, well, actually all the time, to find our voice, to say, that's not who I am. This is who I am. And so he basically talks on that, and he follows it from, of course, Maslow's hierarchy. And this is someone who is a very seasoned scientist. And so that just goes to show you that the foundations don't go away. I've been hearing about Maslow's hierarchy since I was like 16 years old. But really, it is so true. You know, if you don't have those basic levels at the very bottom of just very near basics, you know, the right healthcare, of shelter, of clothing, of food, you know, and then above that, really having like your fulfillment within your passions, within your career, you really can't get to those top levels of just feeling a sense of belonging, of having your community, of having your tribe, if you really haven't reached those things within your external environment and your internal environment that really are going to get you there. And so he went on about the 10 characteristics of self-actualizing people. And if you actually want to look, he has a test that he created along with his partners on self-actualizationtest.com. I have yet to do it, because obviously I've barely been sleeping just to watch this entire conference, but I will eventually go at some point and check that out. But it seemed really interesting. But he talked about these 10 characteristics of self-actualizing people. He talked about basically, the characteristics of love, like how love and belonging and self-confidence, self-love sort of guides some of these areas of self-actualization. And this is a scientist. So that just goes to show you that all of this hate, all of this rhetoric that has happened around the polarization that's happening in the US, that's happening in the UK, it really has no place. We have to evolve past this. So I really loved his point. The last thing I will talk about here is just the freestyling troupe. I've already basically told you kind of what the premise of that was, but they really got the crowd excited about Prince Harry coming on stage through this. And let me just break down the scenario of what they did. So you have these 5 people. You have the guy on the piano, and then you have the beatboxer dude. He's the one with the blazer on, the gray blazer. The woman with the striped pants, she's also a beatboxer, but she's sort of the leader of the group, and she does a little bit of singing, a little bit of rapping, a little bit of everything. And they're all of them, really mostly the woman in the white skirt, the woman in the striped pants, and the man in the tracksuit. They're the ones who are mostly rapping and freestyling, but they're all basically improvisational artists, okay? And so the way they come on the stage, they get everybody really excited. They've got this music that they're creating between a musical instrument and just the sounds that they're creating with their mouths. And they're talking about, context of things that happened at the event. They're talking about how your day was. They're like, did you guys have the hot breakfast at the bar, at the hotel? Because, this takes place in a hotel. Did you have eggs this morning? And she's basically asking the crowd, I need a volunteer. I need a volunteer to tell me what's the one thing that they took away from this conference, and how do you feel you'll take it back to your particular entity or your particular company, whatever that is. And so this woman raises her hand, a very, very courageous woman, because, when she's up there with them, I could see how this could totally be intimidating. But they basically ask her about, how her time at the conference was, who she was with, and she said she was with 2 friends, what she does, what company she works for, what did she take most out of this event, how she'll take that back to her company and implement it. And guys, it's like a well-oiled machine. The information that they took out of this woman, the Freestyle Plus troupe turned it into a whole musical theater skit, literally like 10-minute skit and musical performance based off of just like 2 minutes of talking to this woman and asking her questions. It was so, so beautiful. And music is so transformative. But also at the base of it, what really was a takeaway here is like making people feel like they belong, having a level of inclusion, really making an emphasis on mental health within our working habits. Because how can you really be good at what you do in any way, as an employee, as a boss, as a parent, as a spouse? When you really think about it, how can you be good at anything if you are not well within yourself? And companies, they really just have to take a look at this, because I feel like we are trying to come out of the age of just the bad manager, the toxic manager. And this right here is such a healthy, great step in towards that direction. It's such a great step towards mental health. And guys, it was wonderful. It was wonderful. I really hope that they put out the full replay, the full recording of the whole event. I would love to see it again, because I would love to pull some quotes and things like that, and really have people see this forefront. And I actually love the fact that they live streamed this, for free. It's like you can really see that this is about promoting their platform, yes, but at the end of the day, these are people who really want to make a change in the world. These are change agents, and for them, the fact that they have made this free for people to see, it really shows that they want to make a change in these toxic ways that we've dealt with mental health in business and our personal lives in the past. And it all basically just comes back to you feeling like you belong, feeling like you're heard, feeling that validation within yourself. And it was wonderful. It was wonderful. So that's about as much as I can say. You guys tell me what you think in the comments, and I will see you in the next video. Please do me a favor if you have not already. Click the like and subscribe button. Click the bell so you always know when I post a video, and I will see you in our live stream coming very soon. Hopefully within the next 2 weeks, I'll be keeping you guys updated over that, and lots more content other than that coming as well. So thank you so much. Kisses to you all, and have a great day. Thanks. Bye.